Hi, I'm Mike Scrutton, Director of Print Technology and Strategy at Adobe, and we're here to talk about the world of print and embellishment and a brand new technology we have here at Adobe. We're calling it Project Goldsmith. Increasingly in the print industry, we're looking for additional technologies that allow us to bring more value to our customers. And the world of foiling, varnishing, and embellishment is a key area that we're seeing in 2025. We're used to the idea that we might print our work with CMYK, our customers' files, enabling us to get high quality reproduction. But if we can add additional technologies such as silvers, golds, UV spot coatings, we can actually find that we can raise the value of our print products to our customers. But it's not always easy to do this. And depending on what sort of designer you're working with, they might have different skill sets. Some designers might be creating content in applications like Adobe Illustrator, Photoshop, InDesign, etc. And they might have an idea that embellishment's an available technology to them. They might have a way that they can describe their intentions to use embellishment to the print service provider. In this example, they're using Illustrator and they're defining a spot color with a very specific name to convey what parts of the document they would like to be printed with a foil. Some other customers maybe don't have the idea that embellishment is available. They're using tools, maybe they're creative applications, professional applications like Adobe Illustrator, or maybe they're some of the newer generation of creators who are using tools such as Adobe Express to create that content. They have an idea that they would like to be able to convey. They're using the tools that they have available, maybe on their mobile devices or in the web-based tools, but they don't necessarily know how to convey an instruction to a print service provider. They might not even know that this technology exists. So two different audiences who might be creating content. But the world of embellishment can get tricky. Very often our print service providers have complicated and differing requirements for how you would need to express that intention to embellish. Even more so when it comes to the different equipment that they have, if it's the expectation that the designer provides very, very precise device-specific instructions for how something should be created. So a designer that's working in Adobe Illustrator might be given different instructions by 3 different print service providers. In one case, they might have instructions where they say, yes, give me a CMYK and a spot file and set it up in a particular way. Use spot colors, put it on a separate layer, whatever. Some other customers might come to their print service provider and have a different set of instructions. Maybe it being asked for 2 different files, one which is going to be put through one device in production, and other instructions for a second file which will be used to provide the embellishment to production. And we've seen situations where there are yet more providers who might ask for a single file but with 4 pages, even though the final output might just be a double-sided sheet. Some instructions to put some pages which are going to appear on the front and others on the back. It's a confusing world. What we find is that the designers are standing at the end of this cavern and will need to get across somehow and try and work out how to resolve it. It can be even harder for those designers who don't have the ability to create a file as their print service provider has expressed. Some Adobe Express users might not be able to define in terms of spots or layers. And so they don't even know what to do. This world is unavailable to them today. So traditionally what would happen is that a designer would be asked by their selected print service provider to rework their design based on the specific requirements that they have for job submission, maybe even specifically down to the device that they'll be using at the production site. And if it's not the designer's responsibility to fix this file, maybe the print service provider is employing staff in their prepress department to get the source files from the designer and actually modify those files according to exactly the setup that they need. Again, additional work. This can be very time consuming. It might take half an hour, 40 minutes. I've seen situations where 2 hours might be required to prepare a specific file for a particular way of printing. What we're trying to do is improve this situation, because what we hear from print service providers is that experienced designers need additional training about how to create these files just for their workflow. They also say that, they want to make money out of this, but if it's not right first time, I'm just going to turn down the job, because in a web to print environment, I risk if I'm making one phone call, I'm going to lose money. It basically leads to a world where we have massive inefficiency. And while the world of embellishments is exceedingly exciting, this is definitely a barrier to adoption. So Project Goldsmith is intended to try and bridge this gap, this world between the world of a designer and the prepress department. It's a set of tools that's available to be used in prepress, closer to production where we know what the device is going to be used, so that we can take any file from our designers and know we can reproduce it accurately. So whether you're looking at a workflow where you're taking Pro Tools and maybe your customer, your designer has some idea of how they would convey intent, or maybe they're working in a world where they don't know how to express intent, or maybe they don't even know that embellishment is available to them. What's common about both these workflows is that we promote the use of a PDF file to transfer the file from the designer to production. PDF files are great because they allow us to store the vector, the text, the image information separately with a whole host of additional information, which means we can process these files and prepare them. And Project Goldsmith will help us automate this job preparation step for any embellishment system. Doesn't matter if you're using a toner-based foil, whether you're using polymers, applying foils directly on top of the polymer or underneath the polymer, whether you're using a toner reactive foil, we can drive exactly the process that you have. Make sure the customer is going to get what they expect, irrespective of which of these technologies that they are using. And with Project Goldsmith, we'll create the right files for the right devices. If you need one file, we'll create that one file. If you need two separate files for two separate stages, we can generate those two separate PDF files, whatever the workflow requires. So let's take a look at what Project Goldsmith does and how it achieves this. So here we're looking at a file that's been created in Adobe Illustrator. On this particular occasion, it's got some vector work in here. It's got some vectors, it's got some text. We've got a spot color. A spot color has been used to define this yellowy browny color. But we have some idea, we actually intend to be turned into a metallic, into a gold. So what we can do is we can take this file and we can give it to Project Goldsmith. Project Goldsmith is going to analyze this file and work out what's going on here. What would we like to do? Now, this application you see on the right-hand side, this is a proof of concept. Think of it as like a concept car. This is not a desktop application necessarily that we might see in the future, but this is just a way of us visualizing for you what's actually going on under the hood in Project Goldsmith. What we're seeing here is we've identified the different aspects of the file. And actually, I can see a little preview here. I can see and reflect, literally, where the foil is going to go. You can see this shine that we're getting off the gold. But what's also important here is Project Goldsmith has automatically created the necessary files. Here's the file that's ready to go to our CMYK device to actually represent the background of this design. And here's a separate file, which is the file which is going to go to our embellishment device. This will be printed in gold as a separate pass on top of the CMYK to give us our final result. Here's another example. This file actually has been created in Adobe Express. There are no spot colors here. You can see it's just a CMYK file. There are no layers. There's no additional information. When we take this file and we pass it to Project Goldsmith, it's going to analyze the contents of the file and make some suggestions for us. Now, we're thinking that this visualization that we see here might be offered in a web to print environment, maybe as part of a preview to the customer to say, would you like us to add some embellishment to this design? So you can see it can make some suggestions. It might suggest that maybe you want to add a foil or reflective coating to the heart, or maybe we want to apply some silver to our text up here at the top of our card. Maybe a different colored foil if we've got gold available. Or maybe some combination of whatever we've said below. We can look at different combinations that might be available to us and offer them to the customer. And when we're ready, again, automatically in the background, we can generate the files that are required, both for our CMYK device and for our embellisher. One last demonstration for you here. This is the design that we use to print postcards, CMYK postcards that we shared at Amplifier Print in Chicago in June. We had them printed by a local printer. But the files that we had were just CMYK. They weren't actually embellished. Well, when we take this file that we got from our designer and we give it to Project Goldsmith, Project Goldsmith is able to look at the contents of this file and again, make suggestions of what we might do to embellish it. There are multiple options here. We might want to apply gold to the text in the design. We might want to apply it to the stripes and spots and other lines that we've got around the outside here. We might even want to apply some gold to the image, to the stack of cards we've got here, and show how gold is reflecting off the coating on these particular cards. Or of course, some combination of the whatever's below here. And of course, whenever we're ready to go to production, we've made this offering to the customer, we can generate exactly the files that we need for whatever the process this is. Now we've shown here a situation where we've got a CMYK file and a separate gold file, because that's what the equipment we have requires. But think of another situation where we needed one file, but with specific spot color names or particular layers that need to be produced in order to make that thing print correctly. Project Goldsmith is capable of creating output PDF files for any particular device. So if you're a print service provider and you'd like to sign up to hear more about the availability of Project Goldsmith in the future, you can visit us on the web at adobe.com/go/embellishment.